Have you ever heard of a war that lasted only 38 minutes? Yes, you heard that right. The Anglo-Zanzibar War, which took place on August 27, 1896, holds the record for being the shortest war in history. It's hard to imagine a full-blown war being over in less time than it takes to watch an episode of your favourite TV show, but that's exactly what happened. The conflict between the British Empire and the Zanzibar Sultanate lasted just 38 minutes, which is less time than it takes to bake a pizza. The war was sparked by a dispute over the appointment of a new Sultan of Zanzibar, with the British and Germans supporting different candidates. When the incumbent Sultan died, the British demanded that their preferred candidate be appointed, but the Zanzibar government refused. In response, the British launched an attack on the palace, and after a brief exchange of fire, the Sultan's forces surrendered. While the Anglo-Zanzibar War was short, it had long-lasting implications. More about it in this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The historical connection between Great Britain and Zanzibar is a narrative you won't want to miss if you enjoy drama and power battles. Imagine that the British had just arrived on the island of Zanzibar in the late 17th century. Then, in 1890, they forged a pact with the Germans that practically handed them sovereignty of Zanzibar. Over time, they rose to become the main European force in the area. In addition to the Sultan of Zanzibar, Zanzibar is designated a protectorate of the British. That seems like a fair trade, no? Not so fast. Zanzibar's economy prospers while being protected by the British, but they also have a big influence on the politics of the island. The Sultan becomes a figurehead with little real power, and the British make all the important decisions. Fast forward to 1896, and a power struggle between two candidates for the position of Sultan of Zanzibar sets the stage for the shortest war in history. The British demand that their preferred candidate be appointed, but the Zanzibar government refuses. In response to that, the British launched an attack on the palace. However, this historical relationship between Great Britain and Zanzibar is a typical example of colonial dominance and the battle for power. It emphasises the complicated and sometimes turbulent history of European colonisation in Africa via tale of trade, politics and intrigue. Now, let's talk about what initiated the war. In 1896, Hamad bin Thuwaini, the Sultan of Zanzibar, passed away unexpectedly, leaving a power vacuum that sparked a contentious succession issue. Khalid bin Bagash, Hamad's nephew, soon took possession of the palace and proclaimed himself the new Sultan. Yet, there was a problem. Khalid's claim to the throne was rejected by the British, who exercised major control over Zanzibar as a protectorate. You ask, why? Well, it turns out that the British had their own preferred candidate for the position of Sultan, a man named Hamoud bin Mohammed. The British government supported Hamoud because they thought he would be a better ruler for their interests in the region. The British government made the decision to intervene after Khalid refused to abdicate and give the throne to Hamoud. They carried out a surprise invasion on the palace on August 27, 1896, in an attempt to remove Khalid and replace him with their preferred candidate. The attack. The British attack on Zanzibar was a swift and overwhelming display of military power that took place on the morning of August 27, 1896. The attack began at 9 AM as British warships in the harbour began to bombard the palace of the Sultan. The warships fired their guns relentlessly, raining shells down on the palace and surrounding buildings. At the same time, ground forces made their way onto the island, advancing towards the palace from different directions. The soldiers were heavily armed and well trained, and they encountered little resistance from the Zanzibari defenders, who were mostly armed with outdated weapons and poorly equipped to fight back. The attack lasted only 38 minutes, but it left a devastating impact on the island. Around 500 Zanzibari soldiers and civilians were killed, and many more were injured. The palace was badly damaged, with parts of it collapsing under the weight of the bombardment. Despite the overwhelming force of the British attack, there were a few casualties on the British side as well. The soldiers and sailors involved in the operation had been carefully trained and coordinated, and their superior firepower and tactics ensured that they were able to quickly overwhelm the defenders. After just 38 minutes of fighting, Khalid bin Bargash and his supporters fled the palace and went into hiding. British ground forces quickly secured the area and took control of key buildings and installations on the island. With Khalid out of the picture, the British appointed a new sultan, Hamoud bin Muhammad, who was sympathetic to their interests. Hamoud had previously been exiled to Seychelles by the previous sultan, but with British support, he was able to take power and begin the process of transforming Zanzibar into a British protectorate. The outcome of this historical Anglo-Zanzibar War was a resounding victory for the British. With their overwhelming military force, they were able to quickly and decisively defeat the Zanzibari defenders and seize control of the island. Under British rule, Zanzibar became an important centre of commerce and trade. Significance. Despite its short duration, the Anglo-Zanzibar War was a significant event in the history of colonialism in Africa. It served as a powerful reminder of the power imbalance between the European colonial powers and the peoples they sought to dominate. The brutal display of military force by the British during the attack on Zanzibar highlighted the stark reality of colonial rule in Africa. The war demonstrated that the colonial powers were willing to use overwhelming force to maintain their dominance, and that the African peoples had little hope of resisting them. The war also had broader implications for the future of British imperialism in Africa. It marked the beginning of a long period of British control over Zanzibar and East Africa more broadly, as the British leveraged the strategic location of the island to further their imperial ambitions in the region. The legacy of the war is still felt today, as it serves as a powerful reminder of the brutality of colonial rule and the enduring impact of imperialism on the continent of Africa. The conflict remains an important moment in the struggle for African independence and self-determination, and a reminder of the ongoing struggle for justice and equality in the world today. In conclusion, the Anglo-Zanzibar War was a brief but significant event that demonstrated the power imbalance between European colonial powers and African peoples. Despite its short duration, the conflict highlighted the ongoing struggle for justice and equality, and the importance of understanding the legacy of colonialism. By learning from the past, we can work towards a more just and equitable future for all. That's all for today. For more such videos, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.